this is Eric Becker from Cummins & White, and the subject of this video is the supplemental COVID paid sick leave, which has been reintroduced in California in 2022. Previously, in 2021, there was a supplemental COVID paid sick leave law in effect, but that expired in September of 2021. But now in 2022, the legislature has reintroduced the requirement for some employers to pay COVID sick leave pay under various circumstances, which we will discuss. So this law became effective on February 19th, and it applies to employers that have 26 or more employees. So if you are an employer that has 25 employees or less, then this law does not apply to you. But if you are one of those employers that qualifies, then your employees will be eligible for 40 hours of paid sick leave for the following purposes. First, if they have COVID symptoms and they are seeking a diagnosis. Second, if they're subject to a quarantine or isolation order from the government or a physician. Also, if they are caring for a family member who has COVID, or if they're getting a vaccination and they're sick afterwards from the side effects. Now, only 24 hours of this supplemental COVID paid sick leave is available for vaccination-related leave. And lastly, if the employee cannot come to work because their child can't go to school or daycare due to a COVID-related reason, they would also be eligible for this 40 hours. So this is the first part of the new supplemental COVID sick pay law. There's 40 hours available for these purposes. There is an additional 40 hours of CPSL available in two very defined circumstances. And that is if an employee has a confirmed case of COVID, meaning that they have tested positive, or a family member they are caring for has a confirmed case, meaning that they have tested positive, then they would be eligible for the additional 40 hours, totaling 80 hours of COVID paid sick leave. Now, for this additional 40 hours, the employer has the right to require proof of a positive test result. For the first 40 hours, the employee does not have to provide a positive test result in order to collect the paid sick leave. But for the second 40 hours, the employer may say, look, you've got to provide me with some proof that there was a positive COVID test result. And if the employee cannot come up with sufficient proof of a positive test result, the employer may deny the additional 40 hours of sick leave. Now, this law is also retroactive to January 1st of 2022. So if an employee were absent due to an eligible reason during the period of time between January 1st, 2022 and the present, the employer must pay that COVID paid sick leave retroactively. However, it is the employee that must request the retroactive pay. In other words, the employer isn't obligated to go back and try to figure out if any absences that occurred since the first of the year qualified as COVID paid sick leave. So the employer does not have to ask if an absence was for a covered reason, and the employee has to come forward with either an oral or written request. Now, if an employee took regular sick or vacation time to cover a COVID-related reason for absence in the first part of the year, rather than pay out the COVID sick pay, the employer can just reinstate their regular sick or vacation pay that was taken earlier. And I would say that should be left up to the employee. If the employee just wants to have their sick or vacation pay reinstated, that is perfectly fine. Or if they're not going to take a reinstatement of their sick and vacation, then you would have to pay them out for their COVID-related absence. Finally, it's important to realize that the 80 hours, the up to 80 hours that people are eligible for, must be paid separately from other types of paid leave. So You cannot use regular sick pay, the California required Healthy Families sick pay, which is 24 hours of sick pay per year, or any additional sick pay that your company offers, and count that against the 80 hours of supplemental COVID paid sick leave. So that 80 hours is separate from regular sick pay, it's separate from vacation or PTO. And finally, if the employee is excluded from work due to an infection that occurred from exposure at work, under the Cal OSHA ETS, they need to be paid for that period of time that they're away from work. And that is paid separately from the California supplemental COVID paid sick leave. So that's the basics of this new law. It is in effect for the remainder of the year to September 30th of 2022. And there's a lot of details that go along with this new law. If you have any questions about anything involving the supplemental paid sick leave law, please feel free to reach out either by phone or by email, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. This is Eric Becker from Cummins & White. Thank you for watching.